All right. So like we were just talking about, we were going to say fuck introductions and being formal. So we're just here to talk about bodybuilding and stuff. But um this will be our first episode. Anyways, I'm Kayla. We have Carolyn and Amanda, and we're just three best friends that really love bodybuilding and just like to talk about it. And this gives us a chance to talk to each other every other week. And so why not share our thoughts with everybody else? So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like podcasting in the world of bodybuilding is growing, especially with like girls doing it, women doing it, which I love. So it's kind of cool that you can just kind of pick a podcast to listen to. And if something about one of us resonates with you and keeps you wanting to listen, then sweet. But that's the cool part of it, is it's the personality. Sorry if you hear my dog chasing his tail. Ends up. He's like, what? He just pauses mid donut, like
what? I got caught.
Anyway.
But yeah, nope, I agree with that. It seems like there's so many podcasts and like I feel like lots of bikini, but just in general, and like there's a lot for the dudes, and like it kind of goes between obviously like Foo Ads is like bro chat is like the big one. And that's how like we all kind of got started anyways, was because we all listened to it, but we're like, why not just make a one of ourselves, like, and girls talking about it, because we do want to cover more of like women's bodybuilding stuff. Open bodybuilding is a big thing, but like talking about the women and just going over physiques and stuff like that, and just what we've all gone through to ourselves is also really important, I think. So yeah, I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be good because I've listened to a few other ones where they're like hosted by women. And like a lot of the bikini ones are very cute and sweet, but I don't know, I feel like they hold back a lot. And I don't blame them, to be honest. Like, I don't blame people for wanting to keep things close to the vest in regards to their prep protocols and what they're going through. So I don't blame them for that, but the three of us don't give a shit. So that's the part, is like Carolyn and I are bikini, Kayla's figure. So you've got like two different worlds as far as, divisions go. And sometimes I've listened to a few where like they are very open and honest. I just don't necessarily, and like I love that. Like that's great. There's just like a perspective that's missing there sometimes. And I feel like, I don't know, there's just this what I found a trend with them is that it's like these women are being very hard, which we are, because you know what I mean? Like, yes, you can be that, but it seems like it's kind of over the top almost. That's a little bit disingenuous. I don't know if that makes sense, where it's like, fuck your feelings and blah, blah, blah.
Trying too hard to be like tough.
Yeah, it's almost like, and here's the thing, you can't really blame them either, because like when you're a female with muscle, like you get some interesting opinions and comments sometimes. So it's easy to become that way. It's like, fuck, just let me live, man. You know what I mean? But I feel like there can be sometimes a good happy medium. And I don't know, I just think it'll be good for us to throw our perspectives in the ring. And if one person listens to it, cool. Worst case scenario, we all just get to like Zoom chat and catch up and have a blast because we're best friends. So
Yep, exactly. And
one of those things too, particularly because, we have been doing this for so long. And like you, Amanda, you were in wellness for quite a bit there. And then myself, I was in powerlifting for a little bit and then found out, oh no, this is not for me. So it's cool because we all have very various backgrounds too. And then also Kayla, you started out with the natural athlete as well too. So provide the perspective there. But I think there was even a post the other day, somebody was upset that the bodybuilding forums are now dead. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird because it was an end of an era when you think about it.
I feel like from the forums, it's kind of come to like podcasting though. Like I kind of feel like that's where everyone's getting their information, or just like courses and stuff. So it just kind of just changes with the times, So yeah, I think, and we all coach too. So there's that perspective as well of like our own competitors and stuff. Like Amanda, you actually coach a lot of dudes, which is really cool. I guess like more dudes than like we coach. I have a couple, and I want to get more, but there's that stigma with like females being coaches. Okay, here's a good one for you guys. I don't know if I told you this. I literally at the gym the other day, this kid came up and he's done one show here in Fargo, and I'm coaching the person who he had as his coach, and he's coming back and he's going to do classic next year. and he's in good shape. And like, we just have to add a little bit more size on him, get him refined, whatever for the show. And I'm very confident in like, we can bring him in to the show and win. Right. And this kid looks at me, and because he said to this kid, he's like, yeah, like she's my coach. And this kid was like, oh, her? And I was like, yeah, is there a problem with a girl coaching him? He's like, well, I just like never thought that like that could be possible. And I'm like, oh, you must not know a lot then. And he was like, whoa, just like men's hormones and stuff. And like,
You're
I
like,
don't,
men coach women all the time and they don't.
literally. And I'm like, hold on there, buddy. I'm like, you know nothing about women's hormones, do you? Because women's hormones are way more complex than men's.
Oh, I know. And more men coach women than women probably. And I was like,
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
dynamic that makes no sense. It's that,
Mhm.
or not no sense, but that would be more of a bridge to gap, would be a man coaching a woman, just because they can have all the knowledge in the world, but they're still going to always miss that like empathy piece. And
Yep.
there's a lot of amazing male coaches, don't get me wrong. But yeah, that's kind of funny. You're like, well, wait.
I just like had to laugh so hard, and he felt so stupid. Like you could see on his face, he was like, "Oh, my bad." And he just like walked away, and I was like, "Yeah, you should probably go somewhere else." And
Well, hey,
haven't seen him back at the gym since.
maybe it was just like a genuine not knowing, and now he knows. Like my mom was even like, "You coach men," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." I'm not very close with my mom, so this I don't talk to her super often, so this is not weird. But she was like, "Well, how do you even know anything about men's hormones?" I was like, "I just guess the whole time. I just usually just pretend like they're bigger women, and I just go with my best." I'm like, "Mom, like." It's like men are different, incredibly different from women, but they are less complicated from a hormonal standpoint. Now, from other standpoints, they can be more complicated, but from a hormonal standpoint, way less complicated, way less fluctuations than we have. So it's as long as you just, do a lot of research and training and knowledge and education and all that good stuff. I'm like, there's male gynecologists, mom. Like it's He's like, I didn't know you could do that. I was like, you can.
It's honestly easier.
Literally. Oh my
Yep.
God. It's funny is a lot of men don't like coaching other men. Like when I was coaching with Jonathan, he was like, I'm going to give you all the men, you give me all the girls. Because it's almost, I feel like men sometimes, not all the time, but when they're coached by other men, there's a little bit more comfort there as far as like emotional equality, if that makes sense. And I'll explain what I mean by emotional equality. They don't like, I feel like they're less likely to complain to me than they would be to Jonathan. Like if they were going to bitch and moan, they're going to do it more to him. They're like, dude, like, oh my God, they're going to, because they tend to want to be a little bit more like have their shit together. Or they're talking to me. They're less likely to bitch and moan to me. I don't know
Right.
if it's like super generalization, but he would complain about it. And I never had it. I'm like, they never complain. He's like, well, they're probably trying to seem like they're tough. I'm like, well, that's fine. It's working. So
Mhm.
it's worked out really,
Mhm.
really
It's funny you say that because our one male client, like, okay, so Tyler does his training and stuff, and I do everything else, but he'll like talk to Tyler about like, oh, like this is hurting my back, or like, oh, like I can't do my shoulders at the end of this workout. Can I move it to a different day? And Tyler's like, no, dude, suck it up and do it at the end of the workout. Like it's fine.
See, I've never,
I've
never,
never heard it.
no, like I think, I don't know. Here's the thing is like, I'm sure there are a lot of people that regardless of the gender of their coach, they don't want to bitch and moan, but
Right.
I think, yeah, it's just, I don't know, who knows? It just works out really well. And I love my boys, my men, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, it's super fun for me. I love my women too, but it's just nice that there's a lot less of a hormonal piece in a sense of navigating the ups and downs of it. It's a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
off.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think so too. But I think today we were gonna kind of touch on just some off-season stuff because it's coming into wintertime, like the Olympia's over now. So like most people are gonna be, there's a couple more shows of the year. I think Nationals is still going on. That is in November.
December.
December. Okay, and it's in Texas now.
It's
Um,
7 weeks. There's a guy in my gym doing it. He said he was 7 weeks out. So whatever that is.
okay, okay, so yeah. So about like
Seven. 4th or something.
mid-December.
Yeah, I think it's December in Texas.
Yeah,
Like-
so it's the weekend, I think December 7th.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep. So there's only like one national show left of the year, and then it's just into like probably end of March is like the earliest of shows starting next year. Regional shows, anyways.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So,
There
you
was
know,
a-
talking about, sorry, what was that, Carolyn?
Yeah, sorry, my brain just like lit up. It was in February, there's California. So the muscle contact shows will start in February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, usually Ashley Cotwasser will do those, and then that's when the season starts rolling.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a friend competing in California actually, in December. So muscle contest goes for like a long
Yeah.
time.
They don't take a break.
No. But, you know, coming into off season, you know, this is where I think a lot of people, new competitors especially, and veteran competitors for that matter, just don't take it as seriously as they should, because this is where like the most progress is going to be made is your off season. Like, yes, you see more happening during prep, but like your prep is the result of your off season. So, you know, we just kind of want to touch on just making that important and prioritizing it and how to kind of navigate just the monotony and consistency of everything. So what's your guys' biggest pet peeve of off season?
Oh, so many come to mind. I mean, are we talking like for myself or for clients?
Let's do both for yourself and for clients.
So for clients, it's less of a pet peeve and more of like my biggest obstacle with them, because I understand it. Like I totally empathize with where they're at with it. I would say it's the biggest challenge is, and we've all heard this 1,000 times, is like when you don't have a particular date that you're working towards, they just tend to feel like, oh, like they just don't feel as focused, or not feel, they are not as focused. And they're more likely to, you know, miss training sessions and fall off their diet. And like, well, I just don't, without a show there, you know, I just don't feel like as motivated to be on top of my bullshit. And shifting that mindset over can definitely be the most challenging, because a lot of times as humans, we're just looking at instant gratification, even if that instant is like 8 to 16 weeks away. And when it seems like more than 6 months away, it's hard for people. They don't see the compounding effect. Most human beings don't understand the compounding effect. Like your brain literally cannot grasp it. How all that will compound over time and then get you a result long term. Some people do, but most people have a really, really hard time with it because they're just seeing like how they're feeling right now and how they're looking right now. And bodybuilding is a long game sport or endeavor, whatever you want to call it, hobby. And for me, I love off season. I absolutely love it because I feel like I'm actually going somewhere, like I'm actually progressing. Whereas prep, I feel like I'm just trying to like hang on to my muscle and just you know what I mean? It's like I'm getting leaner. Like it is exciting in a way. There's definitely a lot of things about prep that are really exciting, but you're definitely not just like growing a ton in prep. There might be a select few people on PEDs who do grow a little bit, for sure, that happens. But in general, we're all just trying to hang on to our tissue that we work so hard to grow. And in the off season, there's just like a little more like tangible tissue improvement. And as a bodybuilder, that's what I'm looking for. Body fat to me is so like, I don't care. I care in a health aspect, but I don't get like, oh, super excited about losing body fat because that's such a temporary thing and it fluctuates like this anyway. Whereas muscle growth, I'm like, that excites me. Like strength progression, you know, engagement, all that stuff excites me. And that tends to go away as prep goes on a little bit. We try to hang on to it with like, you know, our claws, like, please, like, let me keep my strength up as much as possible. But it's almost just kind of like, it's a little more stressful for me. Whereas off season, I'm like, okay, I actually feel like rounder. I'm getting a pump. Like training is really fun and feels really good again. And my life isn't just all about prep. Like it's just, I'm happier in that sense. Like prep is still different and exciting, but getting people to love their off season as much as they love their prep is really hard. And I find that the people that struggle with it the most tend to last the least amount of time in our sport.
I feel like it's those people that new competitors for one, who went through a show, got to their leanest that they ever were, the best looking that they ever were. They get addicted to that feeling and the attention too of just like, oh my gosh, I'm so lean. This is awesome. And I was there too when I first started. Like, this is so cool. I used to be kind of a chubby kid. Like, this is great. But then off season, they want to keep that and they try to hang on to that too long. And then that's when health issues start. Hormone imbalances can happen. Like, you're not growing as much because you're probably not eating as much as you should be. So like, I'll just piggyback off of what Amanda said and just, just the learning how to be patient and how to be consistent, over a long period of time. And for me, like, pet peeve or biggest obstacle, I think is a better way to put it, is definitely that of just getting them in the mindset shifted out of prep to like, hey, we need to just grow. And I work with a lot of new competitors, so that's a big thing that, like, I'll get on a call with everyone like before the show starts. I'm like, okay, we got to talk about off season. Like, this is what you can expect. And like, even as much as I can explain it to them, like, they really don't know until you go through it and like you actually feel it, and I'm sure like you guys have run into this too, where you're like, you're gonna be hungry after the show. And like, oh yeah, okay, like, food's gonna go up, I'll be fine. I'm like, no, like, you're gonna be hungry. And sure enough, Kayla, I'm really hungry. I'm like, yeah, it just sucks. It's just gotta be like that for a little bit, dude. You know, um, I think for myself, my biggest pet peeve of off season is being patient. I'm not patient. And I am very like, I love to grow, like, and I respond actually really well. So like, it's exciting for me too. And like, this off season's been really, really good so far. Another push phase to go yet, but it's just the like, I can tell I'm making progress now. So now I'm like, ooh, like, I'm getting like antsy and I'm like getting excited to see what's underneath of it. Like, so I like both prep and off season for like different reasons, but you know, I think I've done a lot better job now as I've gotten older and more into the sport of like embracing the season that I'm in at the moment, right? Instead of just being like, oh, when's prep gonna start? When's prep gonna start? Like, and now I'm like very happy with my body composition. Like, I'm 134-ish pounds right now. And like, that's the most I've ever weighed in an off season. I'm 4'9". So like, that's a lot of weight for a little girl. And like, I'm happy with it. And I graduated high school at like 135 and I was chubby. So it's same weight, just different body composition. So it's cool to see that and just the up and down with everything. And, you know, as a pro too, there's a lot of pressure, and I kind of struggled with that for a little bit, coming into my first pro season and stuff of like, well, how am I going to show up? Like, what am I still going to be too small? Like, things like that. And so now this off season, I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to train my ass off because I think it's fun. I'm going to train with my boyfriend because he's here and he's with me every single day and it's fun. And when coach says I'm ready, I'll be ready to go. And that's all I have to worry about. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I didn't even really think about like what the biggest stressor for me is. The biggest stressor for me is like praying to fucking God my glutes grow. That's literally like, I'm just like,
I just want that show.
please
Like,
God, like I'm doing everything I can, right? Like I'm training as hard as I can. I'm eating the food. It's just like I'm doing the recovery resting. It's just like, okay.
Well, I know, Amanda, like, you even went through and like went back and like kind of started from the beginning with like glute stuff and just kind of relearning because you had all those back issues too, and just kind of, and sometimes we have to do that. That's a good thing to bring up with off season is like, and I've had a couple athletes go through this too, where they're like, well, why are we like pulling back on weight? Why are we going slower? And I'm like, because you have to learn how to connect your mind to the muscle there. You're not getting enough activation. And so, I mean, that's what you had to do. And like, you're a very seasoned competitor. So, if you want to touch on that a little bit about that struggle.
Yeah. And then, oh, actually, Carolyn, you go first and then I'll touch on it. I want to hear about.
Sorry.
yeah,
No.
so
I realized that I was like, we gotta hear from our girl.
no, and it's one of those things too. So like with off season this year, it definitely took an unexpected turn because, at the start of the year, I was already in prep and ready to do it. But I think it ended up being, one of those where you just have to come back to reality and say, hey, it's not the time yet. So actually, when we're talking about training, working with Nick Loff has been the first time feeling like I have a personal trainer since I started lifting. And so from that, even though, yes, we're virtual, I'm sending him videos and everything, but you really do have to scale back the weights when you're relearning how to train again. And it can be extremely frustrating at times because you want to get perfect every single time. But there's always something that you can improve on, which makes it exciting because you are always learning too. But like while in off season, yeah, I think it's more so the self-imposed pressure, like Kayla, you had touched on about being a pro. And even like, comments in the gym, it's like, oh, when are you going to go back to prep again? When are you going to do that? And I'm like, yeah, it's been about 2 years since my last show. And you forget how fast, time moves by, but there's always a reason where we're at, where we are.
Mhm.
And then for client wise, I have seen more new clients coming to me saying, I don't want to diet, which thank God, it's so relieving. And they're like, no, I really want to build muscle. I really want to just focus on that and just be consistent. And it's like the biggest blessing. So whoever's out there and we're doing these consults with, thank you, because we're always pulling teeth, to say, hey, just grow muscle. You'll be thankful for it later. But then again, once prep does start, the most frustrating thing, it's not the diet, it's not the training or seeing your body change. Like that's cool and all. But the most frustrating part is, like Amanda said, is the training aspect, is losing strength and being in the gym and not feeling like an athlete. Like that was the biggest thing on my last prep. I was like, man, I can barely lift these 20 pounds or if that, because we have a lot of Atlantis machines at the gym and those things are heavy. So yeah, so that was my biggest gripe during prep, was not being able to lift as much as I knew I could.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Easy.
you got a little friend. Good Lord. That makes me itch watching it. Not a cat person. Like, I wish all the cats well somewhere else.
But
Like,
no, I agree with that, Carolyn. It's the lifting in the gym and the getting depleted is definitely hard during prep because you just go from like feels like when you're in prep, you're like, gosh, I just want to be done so I can like feel strong again and like eat food. And then when you're in off season, it's like, oh, I'm like, I want to see what's going on, and stuff like that. So just embrace the moment. But
yeah, I feel like it's funny because I noticed that people after, like when they're getting to the end of their prep, they all say, I'm gonna stay leaner this off season. And I'm like, girl,
everyone does that.
I know. I'm like, first of all, let's just take it a week at a time. Let's just see how your body responds. If we're able to stay a little bit leaner and you're eating well and you're in a good spot hormonally and health wise, I'm fine with that every time. And then after the show, they're like, I can't stop eating. And I'm like, right. So I need you to stop worrying about staying lean and start worrying about taking care of yourself and taking care of your body and nourishing your body. Like that's, there's no gold star that you get at the end of your prep on stage for staying leaner in your off season. Like if like, you don't want to blow it out, of course, and have to, lose 40, 50 pounds to get on stage
Right.
in one go, in one push. So yeah, ideally, but sometimes honestly, you have to. Like I've gained 45 pounds before after prep is over, and then I just dieted off in phases, and that's just what I needed to do at the time, mentally and physically. So I'm just like, you need people like have to just give themselves some grace with that. And I don't mean grace like, oh, just do whatever. Like you need to be shit, but you also need to not worry about like just staying lean. Like that's like the last thing I want you focused your intention on. Your intention should be focused on nourishing your body, like I said, like getting a lot of micronutrients, getting yourself in a good place, resting, recovering, so that we can continue to grow. Like that's the focus, not how long can I hold my veins for? It's like,
Right.
who gives a shit? You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep. And I've noticed too with like newer competitors, younger competitors, in myself and with ones that I've coached, is that typically like your first couple seasons, 2 to 3 even, like your body composition is gonna be different coming out of that every single time. And also just what your body needs. Like I've done slow 10 carbs at a time, reverses. I did that on my own. That was stupid. And I felt horrible. I stayed leaner, but I felt horrible. And my hormones went to shit. So it still didn't help anything. And then I've done it where like this last off season, I like ate up for 2 weeks, and then I just was like, okay, I feel better, and I'm just gonna kind of eat what I want because I know how to track my macros and whatever, and I'm not gonna be an asshole, but I was still hungry, you know. And people will gain a little bit more weight than what they think they should, but at the same time, your body needs that. So like I have a couple girls that are still 8 to 10 weeks post show now from the summer, and like they're still like ungodly hungry, eating like a shit ton of calories, like good food. But I'm like, hey, if you're still hungry, like we'll bump up your food. And like if you gain a little bit more, like your body composition's fine, like just get you eating more, until that hunger goes away. So it's all in like what your body needs, and it will tell you. So
Yeah, 100,000%. It's just the composition will take care of itself if you're doing all the right things, right?
Mhm.
So it's like if you're, following your meal plan, doing your cardio as prescribed, training as prescribed, resting all those things, it will take care of itself and it will work out just fine. But when
Mhm.
you're waking up every single day stressed about your composition, that's going to cause you a lot more problems.
Yep.
I mean, because it's like, it's going to actually, if you're hyper focused on it and you're looking at every single mirror and yourself at every single angle, every time you walk by a window or every time checking your stomach in the bathroom of a restaurant, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's
Mhm.
just like, I get that you can't 100% not focus on it. We're bodybuilders, we're going to, but if that's like your dominant focus, it's going to bite you in the ass. It really is. It can
Mhm.
be a focus, but not the first one.
Yep. Yep, I agree. What kinds of things, I guess, do you guys do, for yourself or with athletes, clients, that when they're coming out of a dieting phase, that you seem to help with that mindset shift?
Probably like really direct conversations about it. I dig into them. Why, aside from the fact that you're, low body fat, that's why you're hungry. And every client I have that competes, I've had, these conversations with them, like what to expect if they've never competed before.
Mhm.
This is what to expect. You're going to be hungry on the back end of this. And I know you don't know what that feels like yet, but don't be surprised when that happens. So, if they're having issues like managing their life or whatever, I help them figure that out. But I'm also very direct in that if you want to be a competitive bodybuilder, this is part of it. You're going to be hungry for a couple months post show. And I'm not saying you have to be 100% perfect, but we've got to be like around 90%. Like we've got to be pretty fucking close. And if you're choosing here, there's two options. You can choose to be like, I'm going to gain extra body fat and I'm just going to be fine with it. And I'm going to deal with the consequences later. Fine. That's if you're going to do that and you're going to accept that and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. I don't advise it, but at least be honest with yourself about where you're at. Like, I cannot handle this anymore. And then the sport's probably not for you. It just isn't, because it doesn't matter how many times you do this, you're starving on the back end of a prep as you're reversing out of it. It's just, you are.
Mhm.
So either accept gaining weight a little bit faster and being fine with it. I don't mean like binging on pizza. I just mean like, you guys know what I mean. It's like eating more of good food and just gaining weight a little bit faster, which I'm fine with. Or you need to develop a competitive athlete's mindset. Like you have to. You're not going to make it out of this sport or continue in it if you're not. So I kind
Mhm.
of have a conversation with them what that looks like. Like your improvement season is the most important part of your bodybuilding career. It's not your prep. Your prep is just peeling back the layers to reveal the work you did in the improvement season. If you're more focused on the prep, this sport isn't for you. If you can't stay on your game when there's no show date, not for you. If you are absolutely miserable gaining the weight back and you're going through like gnarly body dysmorphia, and I mean gnarly like debilitating, not like we all go through it. We have some bad days here and there. That's normal. I mean like debilitating, not for you. And I just make sure, like, I'm just very direct with them about it. Like, I don't sugarcoat it. I don't soften it for them. Like, oh yeah, it's kind of hard. I'm like, no, it will fuck you if you let it. So you either own your prep and your reverse, or you let it own you. You have two decisions. Pick one and do it. I'm not saying you're not going to have rough days. We'll talk you through it. We'll get you going. But as long as your intention is there to be like, okay, I'm going to work through these things. I've got it. Like, I'm going to communicate with my coach about it. And when I'm struggling, I'm going to let her know and I'll talk you through it. I'm totally, and all my clients know I'm totally there for them. But if it's just like week after week of just like, yeah, I just decided to, do this and I know I shouldn't. I'm like, this isn't for you. I'm sorry. It's not.
Mhm.
Or at least not right now where your life is. Like maybe we take some time and develop that mental fortitude over the next year or two. And maybe you'll be in a better place in your life and you'll be able to handle a little bit better now that you know what to expect.
Mhm.
But I do have some clients that have competed that I'm like, I don't think you should do it again. I really don't. The way that they, like, all that they talk about is how hungry they are. All they talk about is how hard it is. All they talk about is there's like, I'm like, why are we doing this then? Like, if, of course, all those things are existing at the same time, but that's all that I'm hearing from you. So this is supposed to be fun. Like, it's hard,
Mhm.
but it's also supposed to be fun. And I'm a huge proponent of like being clear with them that this may not be for you.
Yep.
And that's really,
100% agree. I've definitely seen that too, where coming out of a phase or like even starting a cutting phase where they're like, oh, my carbs got cut already. It's like, well, yeah, we're cutting. Like, you can go eat a burger if you want to. No one's stopping you. But I don't want to hear you complain about it because you chose to do this. So that's just where, and this is where the difference is between like bodybuilding and competitive bodybuilding come into play. There's bodybuilding and then there's people who are competitive like us, and that's where too, I think, it can be a little offensive sometimes to those who do compete competitively and take it very seriously because this is our whole life. Like, we've been doing this for years and stuff, and we live our lives by this, and like, yeah, we still enjoy life obviously, but like we are by no means like normal. And that's what you kind of have to realize is that your off season, like, it's not just like a okay, like I'll just go lift some weights and eat my meal plan, and like when I've so and so comes to town, like we'll go eat burgers and sushi and stuff like that. But like, no, like you can't do that. Like if you want to be successful in any ways, So that's just where it's really important to really know like your why for this sport and like what you really want to do with it. And if it changes along the way, that's fine. And if you're like Amanda said, if you're not quite ready yet, that's fine too. Like take a year or two off and just get through, school or something. Like there's around here, there's a lot of like college age kids that are really interested in it. And a lot of them have potential, but mentally is just where they struggle.
yeah. It's funny that you say that. This just goes to show that there are some people that are just built a little bit better for it. Doesn't mean they can't overcome their mental obstacles and get there. They totally can. You have to have that honest conversation with yourself of like, I'm not there yet.
Mhm.
I even had a guy DM me that was like, when I put up that story the other day, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, where I was like,
I saw it.
quit bitching essentially.
I was
Um,
like, I don't.
yeah. And people know I don't mean like, we all complain a little bit in prep, but I mean like, it's just incessant, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, this is exactly why I don't compete. If my food's restricted a little bit, I start bitching and complaining and my wife wants to kill me. And that's why I don't compete. I just train because I like to. I'm like, see, exactly.
There we go.
He gets it that he loves to train, but he knows that the hard dieting side of it's not for him. And the consistency
Mhm.
to that degree is not for him. But like, I will look at, a client that's like a single guy or girl, right? No kids, they have a job and that's it. And I'm like, how do you not get your shit done? Like
Right.
literally, how do you not get, like I have moms, I have dad, like I have a guy with two sons that doesn't even have a show on the horizon and hasn't for 2 years. He's never competed before and he will. And he checks in every single week religiously. He follows everything to a T. And
Mhm.
for him, it's not a huge sacrifice. He loves it. He loves the
Yeah.
culture. He thrives in it. And when he goes on vacation, I tell him like, just dude, just take the week off. Like, just go enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like I have to tell him to relax a little bit. And then I have a college girl, like you're talking about. She's
Mhm.
probably the most dedicated client I have. She has straight A's. She has a full-time job, full workload. of school and bodybuilds like a motherfucker. And she's stronger than most anyone I know. And she's like
Yeah,
22.
she's badass.
She's incredible, man. You know, Hunter. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hunter, love you
Yep,
if you're
I know
watching.
her.
But she's an absolute beast. And she's like working on these big, like, and I don't mean she's just going to school. Like she's getting, like she recently had a project proposal for a business development class, like an entrepreneurial class. And only 2 projects got chosen to, you know, propose like their business idea. And she was one of them.
That's
This
awesome.
girl nails every training session, preps her meals, communicates with me if something is feeling off, gets her blood work done. Like this girl is an animal and she has more on her plate. She has everything on her plate except for having a child, but she nannies, so she kind of does have
Yeah.
children. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and like
Man.
I see her, never once has she complained.
Yep.
Never once. When
I
we
love
first
that.
started, I think she may have been like, okay, do you have any recommendations for how I can like structure my schedule? Like, I'm just trying to make sure I balance everything and get it all in. And she just asked questions and asked for feedback and was like, how can I do this a little bit better? And I was like, oh my God, let's figure this out. And she's crushed it ever since. She's never been like, oh my God, this is just so hard. I'm so hungry or I'm so full all the time and I'm just tired. And never, not once. And I've been coaching this girl for almost 2 years. And
I
I'm
was
just,
gonna say you've had her for a while now.
yes. And she
Mhm.
wants to, we're going to compete most likely next year. But she knew, she's like, I don't want to get on stage till I've grown the tissue. And she hammers herself in the gym to the
Mhm.
point where we're actually like pulling back right now. So she's just a good example of very young, totally could easily be distracted, has a ton on her plate, and just gets it done. She gets it done and execute, has no excuses.
Mhm.
And she communicates if she's struggling with something. And there are just some people that are built for this mentally and some people that not so much. Doesn't mean they can't do it,
Mhm.
but you know what I'm saying? There's some people that are just built for this, and she is. Like she'll go as far in this sport as she wants to. As long as she's enjoying it, she's gonna accomplish everything she wants to because she has it here.
Mhm. I think what goes along with that too is just like muting all the bullshit and the noise in your life around that too, of like what is, and like this is something that I've had to kind of like relearn recently with just like having Tyler and like his 2 girls. Like I have 2 little girls now that like are with us every so often, you know, every other weekend and stuff, that I get to be a part of their lives, and it's really, really awesome. And so for me, I'm like, oh gosh, like I want to make sure that I'm like balancing all this like the same and stuff like that. And I realized that there was a lot of just kind of like bullshit and like drama in my life that didn't really need, and it was just kind of there, and I just kind of stopped giving it attention. And it's like so much better now. And when you, and I see this a lot with other people too, it's just like just feeding into like negative energy and like things that aren't filling your cup up. You know, if you do that, and like she's a college age girl, like Hunter, for example. She doesn't let college drama and like all that kind of bullshit like get into her way. She's like, no, these are my goals, this is what I'm doing. And that's where like having boundaries, respecting yourself and things like that are going to be really, really important, and what's going to get you far in bodybuilding, because that is the selfish part of it, is the sport is like you have to make time for you, and that's what's important. But at the same time, if you do that, you can take literally everything you learn from bodybuilding, like, and this is why I love it, because it's such a like, it's all about your physique, but it's what you learn in the process of making that happen, of like how you can apply it to every single other place in your whole life. And that is like the coolest part of it, and like the big growth overall.
Yeah, Carolyn, I have a question for you since you have a really kind of high stress, maybe not high stress, but like a very important job that requires
Mhm.
like a lot of clearance and focus and all that stuff. Um, you know, and you have to travel a ton. You know, like when you were first getting into bodybuilding, did it, you know, I know that, you know, you've been in it for so long. Was it a little bit of like growing pains of like figuring out how to juggle all that with what your job, with the demands of your job? Like, how did you kind of develop your routine when you first started?
So it was funny, I was thinking about it the other day too, because when first starting out, I was actually a lot more stricter with myself than I am now. So actually even going to like, gosh, my first internship, you know, straight out of college, I would always just have my lunchbox with me. It was my little cooler. was a little big, but would basically, just bring it in to work, no problem. And anytime someone was like, hey, we're going to go out to lunch. And I was like, I'm fine. Because I was just so like
Mhm.
laser focused, completely like when you first start out, you're like, I want to do everything perfectly. Go to the gym 5 a.m., get my workout in, then do cardio when I get home. I had all my meal prepped. It was just like chicken, rice, asparagus, very bro. But that back then, I was a lot more stricter with myself, and I admire that, and I would like to bring that back when the time is appropriate. Because right now it's about healing gut, focusing on foods that are going to support health, but that was more of a prep setting. So having that channel switch is going to be really important in the next coming months ahead. So it's just definitely something that's been in the back of my head, being like, hey, go back to the old Carolyn, like when you first started out, and how important it was for you to, like Hunter, to nail everything perfectly, because then you just have so much more control over your outcome. And yes, you do become neurotic in the sport. You have to be, but it's not to the point where you're pushing people away. Back then, yes, I was pushing people away and saying, hey, that doesn't meet, my current goals. I'm just not going to be a part of it. But nowadays, with traveling and having to always be on the road, very odd hours, the weekends, I can be up until 2 a.m. and then during the week and can be a lot earlier in the morning. So it just all depends on the situation, but that's why every single day has to be scheduled to that particular day. You really can't say, oh, this Monday through Friday is going to be the same. It's never going to be the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially you, because you'll be like all over the world sometimes. You're in different countries, and access to food is different because it's not the same, like, oh, just go get like pre-cooked chicken. It's different in other countries, and accessibility of appliances is different.
Yeah, gosh, I remember, one time it was a holiday and all of the stores were closed for 3 days, all the groceries. And I think I had like lukewarm fish because it was the one. Ugh. That was the one thing that was available, and I had nothing.
Ugh.
Get little Airbnb that I was staying in. I was a little rental unit, and that was the only thing available. So I was like, what do you do? But you get really good at reading like international labels. It really does pay off, actually.
Oh, totally. Do you know that
That's
reminds me
amazing.
of my very first prep? I was extra neurotic because it was my first prep, right? And I was just like, you have to be perfect on prep, but I was just like over the top neurotic, like would double, triple check everything I did. So one of my really good friends was getting married in Lynchburg, Virginia. And it is like, well, not, but was it Middleburg? I don't know. One of those like little tiny cobblestone towns, like that all they have are little bed and breakfasts, and not a hotel, but it's like these like little cottage houses, whatever, from like the early 1900s or whatever. Like if I asked for a fridge or a microwave, they'd be like, no, there's not even one in this town. Like it was very, I don't know, like early America. You know what I mean? Like that's just this. Carolyn knows you're from the East Coast. So I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, because I was there for 3 days. I was, had a small part in her wedding, and of course was not gonna not go. It wasn't like a distant friend. This was like one of my best friends that I grew up with, and so important that I'd be present for her. So I was like, okay. So I remember I packed like a bunch of tuna packets. Dude, I swear to God. And this is my first prep. I think I was like 6 weeks out. So, no food anyway. I had no carbs. I brought I shit you not, I brought like a little bottle of olive oil, and I was eating some vegetables. So I remember being like every night, I'm just like sitting in the bathtub eating tuna out of the packet,
In the
a
bathtub.
spoonful of olive oil for like a little bit more fats. And I was just like, this fucking sucks. But I did
You're like,
it.
I signed up for this again. Why?
Huh?
You're like, I signed up for this again
I
because.
literally, but what's funny is like I was taking my check-in picture, because the coach I had at the time, I checked in with her on Fridays, and I'm like at the hotel. She's like, where are you? There's like a bathtub with like the claws like on a wood floor, and I'm like, I teleported back to 1910. I don't know where I am right now. She was like, I literally brought like green beans, like raw ones and cucumber that I was just like, dude, you guys.
French. Oh man,
Made it
that's
to the
probably the worst scenario I've ever heard.
It was gross. It was not.
Carolyn's lukewarm fish doesn't sound good either.
Well, not only that, I'm 6 weeks out. I think I had like an hour and a half of cardio a day at that point, and there was no like gym anywhere, and we had no car.
Oh,
So what I did was I left Friday morning. I got up at like 4 a.m. and did 2 days of cardio. I did 3 hours of cardio that morning to get Friday. And I swear to God, my coach probably would have been like, don't do that if I just talked to her. But I didn't. I was like, so I did 3 hours of cardio from 4 a.m. to like 7 a.m. because our flight was at like 11 or something. Went home and then left and then came back Sunday and we landed at like 7:38, went straight to the gym and did another hour and a half of cardio that night. I lost like 5 pounds that week though.
I was gonna say that better have been a good drop that week.
That was, but I remember like it was miserable in a way, but I also kind of loved it at the same time because I was just like, I'm not fucking going off this plan at all. Like I am nailing this shit. Like I just took so much like pride in getting it done versus like trying to find a way out of it and it'll be fine. And it was my first show. I had no muscle, like I would have been fine. But for me, it was just like knowing that I figured out a way to make it happen. And yeah, that was what a time.
Dang. Well, I don't have a story like that, but I have a time where this was 2021 and I was prepping to earn my pro card. And I was already 3 shows deep this year, second place at every fucking show. And I have 1 show left. And I have to have a trip. I have to make a trip to Vegas for a business thing. And this was already pre-planned, like before prep. And I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, I'll be done with prep by then. Nope, we decided to extend it. And I'm in Vegas, staying at the Aria, which is like on the strip. So there's no microwaves, there's no nothing there. And I'm 3 weeks out of like my last show of the year. And I made it work in Vegas. I resisted all of the food. We went out for dinners for this like business thing that I was doing, and I made it work by like when I ordered my food. I think I had one night I had swordfish and I was like, can you just grill it but with like nothing on it? Like literally just season it. And then I had like vegetables. And then like the next night I had like a steak and like the same thing. So I made it work and still ended up winning my pro card that year. But that was like the toughest thing that I had that came up that I had to work around. But like Amanda said, like it's just the like, all right, we're just going to embrace the suck and we're just going to get through it and you're going to come out stronger at the end. So again, all these growth opportunities, right? You know, at the time we look back and we laugh at it, but it's like, you know, we didn't know any better. You know, we just wanted to be on plan and like not and stay true to ourselves. So
it's funny how like if you're committed to making it work no matter what, you'll find a way. And if you're committed to finding an easier way, you'll find an easier way. It's like, it just blows my mind because I got people like clients will give me scenarios sometimes. And I don't have many clients that are like this, and I'm like, that's such an easy thing to work around. Like, just get your cardio done before you leave. Like, it's no big deal. Pack your food. I'm like, isn't this intuitive? But for some people, that's what I mean by like, maybe that type of person will do a few shows in their lifetime. But unless you have that like locked in, nothing is deterring me. I don't care. Even if like I didn't do the 3 hours of cardio, I probably would have like walked all fucking day. Like
right.
The wedding.
Been outside and
would have paced around that wedding venue. I don't care. Like they brought me wedding cake and food. I didn't eat a damn thing at that wedding. Not one thing. I think I had like one cold shrimp cocktail. It was just like a cold shrimp. And because I was just like anything but tuna. But it was just like plain chilled shrimp. There wasn't anything on it. So I felt okay with the protein. But anyway, it was just like, not that it's like a badge of honor, but it's just you make it work or you don't. And you can make it work anywhere, just about anywhere. And I have clients that do that and clients that don't. Their results typically reflect it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that it comes down to is just like in your off season or in your prep, what you decide to do and the effort you put into it is what's going to come out of it at the end. And, it'll reflect that. So as long as, you can come in and say that you did everything possible in your power, like, then you can't, you can be happy with whatever place you get. But if you know that you slacked and stuff and you came in second, can't be upset about it.
Yeah. Can we, sorry, not to like totally like squirrel. Can we please like talk about the shit show that is bodybuilding right now, just for like a second? Not that like everyone knows what's going on. If
Yes.
I say the shit show, I mean the overall response. And this is such a human thing. Like throughout our history, you can see like this kind of bandwagon mentality people have of like just shitting on someone that makes a mistake or whatever it is. And it's such an extreme. And it blows my mind that, sorry, I'm trying to get out of this glare. It blows my mind that people cannot see that that's what's happening. It's like, okay, take any person that's like shitting on like the Mike and Jeff situation or the Matt Jansen and Nick Walker, Sean Clarita situation. I'm like, let's take your whole life and every mistake you made, lay it out on the internet, and let's have everyone be the
Everyone gets to be the judge.
and the jury. Let's see how that goes. It's like, I'm like, there's so many people, there's people I know that I see commenting on that stuff, like in the industry. I'm like, motherfucker, you are
Like, you should be one to talk.
literally, it's just like crazy that there's no, like the first thing I said to Dan, my husband, when we saw this coming up, and I was like, he was like, what do you think of all that? I was like, I don't know what's actually going on. Like, for example, with like Matt Jansen and Nick and all of his clients. And when Quentin released his video, I was like, we're getting Quentin's side, but like nobody knows what's actually going on the Camp Jansen side. So I don't really feel like I'm in a place to make any kind of opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have the information. So like, it's really not, there's nothing for me to really think about it. Same thing with like, Mike and Jeff Nippert. I'm like, yeah, they showed like one clip of the video. Like, what's the context? It's like, obviously putting your hands on someone's never okay, but it's more than just that. So before everybody goes, people just want to like see these people hang for making mistakes. And I'm like, it just blows my mind how humans just have no self-awareness at all sometimes. And they just think like, because they're behind a computer screen, they can just say whatever that they want. And it's just really sad to me. It's kind of pathetic, to be honest. I'm like, and I really mean like pathetic. Like, if you can't think for yourself enough and you're just parroting what everyone else is saying, and you can't sit back and be like, yeah, maybe one of the people in the situation isn't my favorite, but I don't know the whole story. And it really has nothing to directly do with me. So if you don't want to support that person by, buying their merch or whatever, then that's fine. Don't support them that way. But like, and even if you have like a constructive opinion, that's fine too. But people just like go online and they just like act like they've never fucked up royally in their life before. And I'm like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I think it's just, it's the bodybuilding drama, and that's what it is. And that's where people just get a high off of it. It's the same thing as like the Kardashians and whatnot, like all people that pay attention to that stuff and everything. Like it's the same thing, just smaller community, but which is sad. It's like, people make mistakes, they mess up, take ownership of it and move on,
Well, the funny thing is too, is Carolyn and I are a part of Camp Jansen. We're both coached by Cameron Cheek, who's in that camp. It's not Matt, but I'm like, every single person in a part of that outfit, whatever you want to call it, is some of the most kind, genuine people. Their intentions are so good. You've never heard Cameron, Dom, or Jacoby or any of those guys talking shit or saying anything negative about anybody. They just stay in their lane and focus on their clients. And they're very respected and very known to be very incredible professionals in the industry for that reason. And all of them I know too, like if a client says like, hey, I didn't love this, blah, 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 blah. They're the first to be like, I'm so sorry. Let me clarify, let me be better at my communication. So glad to know that that's what you need from me. Like, just really great communicators. And the thing is, they want to do right by people. Doesn't mean that I'm sure they make mistakes as human beings, but I'm like, one of the reasons I hired Cameron well, aside from the fact that I just trust him and I think he's an incredible coach, was because I trust Matt Jansen and what he built in a sense of the way he conducts himself professionally. I don't know anything about his protocols. I know nothing about his coaching style. I don't know anything about that. But every single person that I've known or heard about talk about Matt, you can't say like a Matt bad thing about him in a sense of like such a good guy, really good intentions, really tries to do right by people. Like he's of course going to make mistakes for sure. And he always admits it. He takes responsibility, takes accountability. He's not online like Phil Viz just like shitting on people. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Look at what he's done for the industry with Raw and Revive.
Mhm.
And he's added so much to the industry than a few mistakes that he's made. And anyway, I just think it's crazy how people will just look at somebody like that and just have no information on the inside of what's actually going on and take away the years and years and years of accolades and
Mhm.
praises that Matt has just in his business dealings. Like I can't think of anywhere where someone's like, oh, that guy's a fucking asshole in private, or he does this, that, and the other. Incredibly professional, all of them.
Mhm.
And so I'm just like, he has a year where he's off and making mistakes and whatnot, and people now want to hang him for it and telling him he has to. It's just like, sorry, it's like a rant, but I'm just like,
No, by all means. I mean, Carolyn, you're on the team too. So, what kind of insight do you have? Like, I know you said that Cameron sent out a message to everybody, and you really appreciated that, with everything.
nicest message. Yeah.
Mm.
It was the nicest message just to say, he acknowledges what is happening right now, and that if anyone has a concern, then to bring it up with him. So he did not have to do that. Like, he really did not. So getting that message, I was like, man, you're such a good dude, because you really did not have to go out of your way and send a voice memo to everyone on the team. Because, there is a lot surrounding it right now. So of course everyone's going to be like, oh, he should say, something, or, to the broader public. And it's like, no, it's none of your business. You're not a part of that. And this is not, something that only happens in the bodybuilding industry. I've seen it before in other industries. And there's a couple of events that also happened this last week. It's like something's in the air. Like, I don't know what it is, but in all across the board, there has been negativity, and I don't know why. So I just want
Because it's October.
that too, and a full moon. So whatever,
Everything happens in October. I swear to God.
it's true.
I swear to God.
Not a good month. Also, same with January. January is not a good month either. At least for us in the space world, we're like, just don't launch in January. It's a really bad superstition. But yeah, no, it was one of those things. I was very pleasantly surprised, by that message. But at the same time, I shouldn't have to be surprised. I shouldn't have to be surprised by someone doing a good act. Like, thinking about the whole situation, taking a step back, it's like, why do I have to be surprised by someone doing something that's supposed to be right?
Hmm.
Like, are we that lackluster like
Hmm.
nowadays that, we just can't accept it? But yeah, no, it's one of those things, when you are a high level coach at that level, you do have to be prepared for there to be backlash. And personally, I think he has handled it very well, because of what has happened. And we do have to acknowledge more of the good that he has done for the industry than the bad. So, these things do happen, and it's definitely not the first, and it won't be the last.
Hmm.
No, the thing is too, I think it's right obviously Matt, a lot of his competitors have not come in at their best this year, and there's been stuff going on clearly. Although I don't think any Sean would have beat Keon anyway this year, like whether he was off or not, which I don't really think he was horribly off this year. He's also in his 40s, for fuck's sake. Like, this guy's incredible. I'm like, you
I know,
guys,
loud.
um, but yeah, no, I think it's always good to look at like, okay, so there are things that have gone wrong for sure. And it's not just like, oh, we just, don't acknowledge it. Like, I'm not saying that at all. It's like, yeah, we acknowledge it, that like, okay, something's going on with Matt and his coaching. Maybe he'll address it, but to take him to say like, he needs to retire, he's cooked, he's fucking done. Like, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you guys. Like, I know of so many top level coaches that prescribe some wild shit. And if the internet saw it, they would be saying way worse things. I'm just like, when I watched Quentin's video, I was like, all he complained about was he was doing 2 hours of cardio and Matt didn't catch that he was losing tissue. But I was half expecting him to like lay out this crazy diuretic thing or like had me on 4 grams of blah, blah, blah. I was just like, well, a lot of guys diet really hard and do a lot of cardio. So I'm like, you know, obviously, clearly he didn't come in at his best and there's things wrong there, but there wasn't like some cat let out of the bag. Anyway, I don't know. I just found it very unsavory. And yeah, it needs to be addressed, but to the degree with which it is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, as someone who's like on the outside, you know, I mean, you guys are on Camp Jansen, so like I'm kind of like on the outside skirts of it. Like when I saw it all, I just was like kind of the same thing as you, man. I was like, I just want to get all the information. Like I saw Quentin's video and like I'm a fan of Quentin, but like after seeing that, I was kind of like, it's kind of a baby thing to do. It's like I was kind of like perplexed by it. And then, you know, and then the other videos came out about like Matt Jansen exposed and stuff like that. And I'm like, y'all are just trying to get like YouTube views and like all this crap. And like, it's people like Bill Viz that like to start shit and just like to be loud to get views because what's the saying? Like any advertisement is good advertisement or something like that.
Yeah. Any press is press.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's what he does with his Instagram. And I'm not a fan of him, but like that's my opinion. But I think Matt handled it very gracefully. It kind of seems like, you know, like Brett and like Sean, I know was very quiet. He just was like, this is the only thing I'm gonna say on it. You know, he has been very quiet otherwise, like, you know, and it's those people that are just gonna kind of take it and just be done with it. And like Brett, I saw on like Fuad's podcast, he was like, I'm just gonna speak for myself, and this was my experience. Matt's been great. We just decided to part ways, and that's fine. And like people do that. Like people part ways with coaches. Like we all have parted ways with coaches before, and you know, and it just is what it is. And I think when you're at that level that Matt is at, like every little thing you get is scrutinized. And it's like, as much as it sucks to say, like, you know, you could give someone a really good program and a really good training session, like for like in-person training, for example, because this has happened before. 4 good, awesome training sessions. Yeah, coach, this was great. And 1 bad one, they're going to go tell all their friends about all this 1 bad training session that they had, but they can't say anything about the good one that they had. You know, it's always easier to focus on the negatives. And like, yeah, Matt was off his game this year, but like, who doesn't when life happens, you know?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It needs to be addressed between Matt and his athletes. And it sounds like Matt's taking a step back from coaching. I don't think he's formally announced anything, but it sounds like he might be moving in a different direction with his, you know, triathlete or endurance stuff that he's doing in his businesses, and which is fine. But I'm just like, people are commenting like they actually know what's going on. I'm like, aside from Quentin, all of the guys that Matt have coached are just singing his praises all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't like Quentin's like, I was scammed. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I feel like he's just done a lot of squawking, and I just find it pretty unprofessional to do and doesn't really set a good precedent and standard. And they kind of say like, well, I'm just being honest. And I'm like, but was harm the intent? Was like, you know what I mean? I just don't see that Matt was like trying to scam him and trying to mess up his career. I can only imagine.
Gaslight him.
Yeah, like I'm like, Matt's not out here. Like that would make no sense. And I guess I don't know Matt, but to me, there's a lot of evidence to support. I have to look at what I know. There's a lot of evidence to support that man wanted to do everything he could to make his athletes the best they could be. That's in his best interest too, by the way, not just, you know, like what benefit would Matt have with scamming top pros and potential Olympians?
Right.
It's no fucking sense. It's like, there's a lot of evidence to support that he gives a shit and that, yeah, he made some mistakes this year, but to make it sound like it was intentional and he was trying to do him harm. And it's just like, it's just such a displacement of accountability. Like, you know, all three of us have parted ways with coaches and we don't go online and blast them. Like,
No, we all had places where we were unhappy with coaches that we were with too. We didn't go online and just blast out everything that we said, you know?
oh, not that I have a following anyway, but you know, but still, it's like,
Same.
it's my private business and it's
Yeah.
not, that's not what I'm looking to do. Like, that's not what I'm looking to do. I'm not out to like fuck with someone's livelihood and, you know, as if they're doing intentional harm to people or like negligent harm, you know what I mean? Which
Mhm.
I just don't see that as the case here.
Yeah.
Just by the fact that every single one of Matt's clients, most of them, I guess not every single one, but there's been nothing but his praises. And then like one video of one guy disgruntled about doing a lot of cardio. I'm just like,
Yep. I saw even like Justin Shire commented on his post when he talked about like his review or whatever, and he was like, Justin said something along the lines of like, you've been a very integral part of like my bodybuilding career. Thank you so much. Like much love or something along the lines of that. Don't quote me on it, but it was a very good comment, you know, and like you said, I've only seen people who were actually there comment positive things. So
yeah. So anyway, it was just, I find it quite pathetic when especially grown-ass men are out there pointing the finger rather than, you know, fuck, what's it called? Oh my God. Just seeing what their part in it is, because you always have a part in it. Like everybody listening to this, every single confrontation, disagreement, whatever it is you have a part in it, whether it was just allowing it to happen at the basic level. Maybe you just allowed it to happen. Maybe you just stood by, didn't stand up for yourself. You have a part in everything that you invite into your life. You are accountable and you cannot control other people. And going out there and pointing the finger at somebody. Now, if someone's out there like doing really gnarly harm, of course, and like to the point where it's like, this person needs to be stopped because they're harming people intentionally, that's a different situation. But I'm talking about this scenario and in scenarios in anybody in their life. You have a part in it. And your part may be stopping whatever's going on and removing yourself from a situation. And I understand it's not always that easy, but you have to, it may not be easy or the right thing to do at the time, but you have to have that accountability in your mind. Otherwise, you are going to be perpetually the victim. If you are perpetually the victim, you're going to consistently be that always. If you take ownership of your shit, even if something maybe wasn't directly your fault, if you own it regardless and empower yourself to do something about it, that's when your life will start to get so much better and you're not going to be stuck, embittered, and holding resentments and in the same cycle over and over and over again. Because people that point the finger always do. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be called out, but in addition to yourself, you know what I mean?
Call out whatever you want, but then own your own bullshit, you know? Like there's two sides to it. So I agree with that.
Always. There always is. And that's what drives me crazy, because even if, let's say, someone is genuinely a victim, you have to still take ownership of the situation yourself. Otherwise, you will never get yourself out of it. If you feel completely powerless, you won't do anything. You have to empower yourself to do something. Otherwise, you never will. Nothing will change. So, and it doesn't mean you're taking the blame or anything like that. You're taking responsibility for yourself and for your life. And that's what I don't see Quentin doing. I mean, I guess maybe he's doing it now because of whatever. But no, people, not just him, like he's just a human being. You know, he's not a bad person. He's just handling it in a way that I don't love. But at the same time, take ownership of your part in things rather than just like trying to cook somebody else.
Yep.
You know,
any thoughts to add?
Sorry, I went off for a second.
We're going off on rants here.
I know. Everyone knows I like my rants.
You know, it's just.
Carolyn's the calm, cool, collected one of this group, I feel like. Like, it's going to take a lot, I think, to get Carolyn to go on a rant, but we're going to do it one day.
Yeah, it's near my bedtime.
Carolyn's like, I'm tired. As I'm drinking.
The guava is good.
Oh, it's so fucking good, you guys. It's
so good.
So good.
Because so many
for $3 for $6 at the grocery store today.
I don't know what it is, but a lot of the new flavors have been like kind of like not super sweet, like kind of like like tart or sour or salty even. And
Ooh.
that guava one is 10 out of 10. I love it.
I like the guava. Me and Tyler both, we fight over them in the fridge.
No, it's definitely challenging the white can, and that says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
White can is Bible.
Yep.
I actually have to get off in a second because I got to go take Enzo for his
I feel
exercise.
bad. I have to
That's
hop-
all right. I got a call. You got to go take Enzo out. Carolyn's got to go to bed, but
well, friend here, so I gotta go.
There he is.
he's
Oh.
waiting so patiently.
Enzo,
He's like, oh, we're
the
going.
baby, and my blood red couch.
Love it.
But we will be back in 2 weeks to chat more. And this was a good episode. I think we'll start with this one.
It was good, juicy.
So peace out, guys. I love you. And I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.